Hello, everyone. We're back with Ken Dombrowski, Executive Life Coach and Master Hypnotist. And today I want to talk about length of time that people may need to work with us, and specifically what 6 months can do to bring someone to a successful life.
Well, that's interesting that you asked that because we happen to have a 6-month program that's pretty wonderful. We have crafted over the years a 6-month program to help people with whatever it is that they've got going on. It's really, we call it like our 6-month success program or for a successful life. Mm-hmm. So what can happen, generally speaking, someone comes into that 6-month program, it's 2 sessions a week. We're really going in depth, and there's a lot of saturation of how we're going to approach the subconscious mind and the reprogramming. So you come into the program, your first few months are going to be all about healing your past, getting those things of the past up and out of the way, your past stresses and traumas, your current, and then that last 2 to 3 months we're focused on your future. So we're going to then be what we call dream sculpting your life ahead, creating goals, coming up with plans and pathway to get to those goals. So we can have someone who comes in, well, actually kind of popular, I'd say popular, for people who have addiction. We have people come into this program, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. Now, it's really sad because we'll hear so many times that people will go through like a 28-day, inpatient rehab for their drug or alcohol addiction. So they're forced to be sober for that time period. But then research shows us that a majority of people, when they get out of rehab, it lasts on average 10 days or less, 10 days or less. We've had countless people confess to us that they were using, the day after they got out. Just couldn't. They were counting the days in rehab so they could get out and use their drug of choice again. So they can go through this again and again, 2 and 3 different times in the last several years, go to this type of thing, and it's just not getting them there. Well, what we're offering is 6 months instead of just 1 month of unbelievable intensity, because the mind says, if I can just make it through this 28 days, I can get back to my normal, which is using or drinking or whatever it is, or gambling. See, that's all it has to do is put up with it for that time. So when we do 6 months, it's a lot harder for the subconscious mind to rationalize, okay, in 6 months when this is over, I'm going to go back. It's just so much more of a time commitment that the subconscious, it actually starts to fall in line and go in the direction that we need to be going. So we have people who come out of that with, this is interesting, not always quit drinking, but reduce their drinking greatly, and they have control over it. Why? Because we resolve the emotional issues underneath that had them drinking out of control.
We also don't beat labels to death. So part of rehab is labeling yourself an alcoholic for life, labeling yourself a drug addict or drug abuser for life. We don't really want to keep reminding you of that. You know what I mean? I understand the purpose that plays in rehab and Alcoholics Anonymous and all that, those different kinds of programs. But that's just not how we do things, because we don't want to tell you you've had this problem. If you ever touch it again, you'll be back to square one. How you can't do that. Find another vice. No, we want to pull away the reason to need a vice or a coping mechanism altogether. How many times do you see someone at AA and they're just drinking all the coffee or having every kind of sweet on the table because you're just replacing that coping mechanism. Now you need copious amounts of caffeine or an unbelievable amount of sugar intake in a day to get through the day. We're trying to deal with what's underneath. We want to deal with square one and what got you there. You know what I mean? So it's never you're an alcoholic, you're always going to be an alcoholic, let's find another way to cope. No. Okay, you hit the point of alcoholism. Why did you hit this point, and what led you there, and how can we help you get past those emotions, those traumatic experiences, and leave those emotions behind for that situation?
Well, a lot of what you're describing, of course, is going to fall in with Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I'm not going to trash talk. I'm not there. That's an amazing volunteer organization. they have saved millions of lives. I know
Correct.
this. This is a fact. So I'm so grateful that they're there. But there's a great big however. The approach that they're taking is as exactly what she was suggesting not to do, is they're going to beat into you. You have a massive defect. You're an alcoholic. So every meeting, hi, my name's Ken and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Ken. So you're reaffirming it to yourself every week, and then a room full of people are validating it, reminding you of this great big problem that you're struggling with. And that word becomes your life. Struggle. You talk to an alcoholic. I don't care if they've been sober for 15 years. They're still every day worried, am I going to fall off the wagon today? A drug addict. Don't care. I don't care how long they've been sober or how great their life is going. Every day they struggle with, is this going to be the day that I relapse? So we want to remove that struggle by reprogramming the subconscious mind that has you believing that that is where you need to turn because of however you learned it. Now, me, for example, my parents were both alcoholics, and they both had problems with drug abuse.
Gambling. Yeah.
Gambling, too. They both smoked 2 packs a day each. They had all the vices, really. So I grew up with all this, and I watched it, and that was the sobering thing for me. I don't want to have my life like that. Always wondering, when am I going to get my next drink, my next drug, my next gambling, spending the rent money on partying instead of rent. All that. I learned that way. Nope, I don't want to do any of that. So that was, for me, the greatest programming I could possibly get in my subconscious, was constantly watching those horrifying negative effects.
And I think that makes total sense because, it can go either way. Like, you grow up with this person that you think may not be the best example, and you can either hate them so much and not want to be like them, and then you end up turning into them, or you can see that this is not the avenue you want to take and choose to be better. But that's the same thing. Like, I don't want to be this. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be an alcoholic. I don't want to be an alcoholic. I don't want to be a narcissistic parent. I don't want to be a narcissistic parent. What do you end up being? Those exact things, because that's where your focus is. And like he said, rehab, AA, the sponsors that you get, all of those places, all of those spaces deserve a place. Not everything's going to work for everyone. We understand our program's not for everyone, but rehab is for someone and AA is for someone. Everyone needs a little bit of something different depending on how they process and where they are in their life. But sometimes it just takes a lot of work, and a lot like people who have an addiction, that work comes from the longer work. The 6 months that we need to talk about comes from the things that your parents say to you when you're a child, or situations you experience when you're a child. When you have constant narcissism in your life, or you're constantly seeing these negative things happen, or your parents reaffirm that you're not the best version of yourself, that's going to take a while to undo. You can't undo years worth of trauma and subconscious damage in 8 sessions all the time. As much as we would love to be able to help everyone in one of our shorter programs, there's some stuff that's going to take some time to unravel.
Absolutely right. All of that, every bit of that is a salient point to helping us understand we're working with the subconscious mind, not against it. And that's going to be really the big selling point there to help you understand.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we can use rehab all day long, or, addiction all day long for 6 months, because that is usually a case if we're talking to someone who's actively struggling with their addiction. Okay, well, we can't do this overnight. We do need to look at something longer, but other different experiences that people have will start showing that they need more time. And a lot of that does start with the childhood and that kind of continued abuse, if you even want to use that word. We kind of like to use that word because it is more so abuse, even if someone doesn't mean it all the time. But we have to help you sift through what you're experiencing, and it does take some time. Like, you can't keep friendships, or you can't find a committed relationship, can't even figure out how to get in a committed relationship, or you just have an inability to take part in your life in any capacity, whether that be keeping a job and actually showing up to it, or maintaining a home, whatever it may be. they can all show differently. Like we've put people through the 6-month program that on paper look like phenomenal human beings, and you would never know the issues that they're experiencing behind closed doors, because it doesn't take some crazy obvious problem all the time to mean that you need a little bit of help or a little bit of extra elongated help.
Yeah. Yep. All really good. All that. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just always say keep 6 months in mind. I mean, how often do people go see their psychotherapist or like traditional therapy? How long do people stay in that for? These things do take a length of time. And I think alternative therapy should be more in that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So if you want to take 6 months to make it to your successful life, please visit the link in the description and call us today. Bye now.
Thank you.